So, pleasure having everyone on. Kwame Chase Shakur. I'm chairman for the Black Liberation Party, also the advisor for the Second Rainbow Coalition. You here today? We're going to talk a little bit about overcoming the Democratic Party for Black Liberation. We have a few guests on here today. That's going to be our panelists. That's going to be speaking in behalf of this issue that we feel like in this today time that right now the Democratic Party is really in dire problems right now. We already know they've been selling us out for a long time now. And this is an opportunity that us, as the wretched of the earth, as Franz Fanon said, those at the bottom that's been struggling against capitalist imperialism and colonialism, neo-colonialism. This is our time that we can start uniting, building a united front against this empire, and the people start to take back their own power. You dig what I'm saying? This is what this is about. I think this is a historic election that we can change the paradigm shift to another direction, that the ones like the Poor People Army say all the time, we don't come from the left, we don't come from the right, we come from the bottom, and we coming for those at the top. So I want to introduce a couple of my guests that's on here. We have Tina Wright. She's a sociologist, writer, hip hop educator, strategist, media analyst. We have Galen Tyler, co-founder of PPERC, national organizer for the Poor People's Army, Kensington Welfare Rights Union alumni. We have Renee Johnson. She's an educator, organizer, committee chair for the Green Party of New Jersey and Global Pan-African Movement, Black Power Media, and Black Alliance for Peace. We got Bomani Yahuru Jihad Shakur. He's the Minister of Information for the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa, the Vice Chancellor for George Jackson University. And then you have myself, Kwame Chase Shakur, Chairman for the Black Liberation Party, Second Rainbow Coalition Advisor. I want to start with you first, Galen. Being that you are a co-founder of the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign, aka Poor People's Army, with co-founder Sherry Hunkela. I know y'all have went through many developments and transitions in y'all's political and ideological line and worldview. I mean, y'all once believed that y'all could make change within the Democratic Party. Sherry even made a comment when she announced that she would be running on the Green Party ticket in early 2011 for sheriff of Philadelphia on a no evictions platform. She said, quote, "I've been involved in too many fights in my life where I thought I was separate from the machine and the corporate money, only to find out later on that I was being used as a pawn for the Democratic Party. The Green Party has a strict policy of no corporate money, which I like. Can you talk a little bit about how the Democratic Party tried to use y'all as pawns in those years of the Poor People's Army's history when y'all had given the Democratic Party even a chance?"
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Kwame. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Yeah. So it's been like a long struggle for us because you know when the organization, the Kensington Welfare Rights Union, got started, I mean, wasn't political at all in a sense. It was more about trying to figure out how to unite mothers around being able to meet their basic needs and make it day to day living on welfare and not being able to like survive barely on less than $6,000 a year. And so it was like, the sharing process, working together that led, people to uniting with other different mothers that was going through the same thing. And so the organizing and the work that was being done, with these six mothers that spread it, I mean, all throughout Kensington and throughout Philadelphia, where we were starting to be like a daily name in the paper or on TV or in the community meetings at City Hall. And, we had some good ideas. We really thought, you tell people what the problems was, what I mean? And they would look and try to figure out some answers and solutions. And the Republican was always at the point, in Philadelphia, no voice, little to no voice at all. So we never really had, had to deal with the administration, a Republican administration here in Philadelphia. So we end up being like, poster child, puppets, in a sense where they had us sitting on all these different committees, whether it was the Housing Trust Fund, the Affordable Housing Coalition, whether it was, trying to take back land, all these different committees that we worked on inside City Hall for years, meeting constantly. And at the end of the day, it always came up with something goofy, in the law where it says um, councilmatic prerogative in small prints. So no matter what you did in the neighborhood, in the community, and people were saying this, and that, the bottom line, when the Democratic, city council member said, no, I don't want no affordable housing in my neighborhood because I got too many poor people already in my district. They were just straight not building affordable housing when people were trying to. And so we just started, you know, getting kicked a little bit, by the Democratic Party. And so over the years, we come to learn that like the same people, all across the country, and this was like the early 90s for us, we was fresh into, trying to organize amongst ourselves. We didn't concretely think that, you know, throughout history, they always tell you the Democrats was for the poor people. Always trying to let pick the lesser of the two evils and stuff like that. And, they pretty much had us brainwashed, trying to figure out picking the lesser of the two evils until, we just started sitting around and it was kind of like after a march, to Harrisburg, and staying on the Capitol steps, sleeping out and, you know, doing tours of the Capitol one day. And, a lot of the homeless mothers, their kids was seeing how the governor's dogs were living much better and had a better housing situation set up, being able to eat food, these animals. And so we started saying, like, we humans, I know back in the day they used to carry the sayings, I am a man. And, so we was like, we're human. And so after that, we just started looking into, the human rights law, in this country and the world. And the Democrats, taking corporate money, and working for the power of the elites, the ruling class, made us break ties and would call out, so many different people to like in the 90s, we started getting a red tag on us, locally, um, just trying to figure out how to work where everybody had a right to these basic necessities and fighting for them. They looked at us like we was something was wrong with us. Like, how are y'all looking for this pie in the sky? And we was just looking at them constantly spend money on the police force, spend money on entertainment, spend more money on the stadiums, the convention center, all these different things to attract people to come visit Philadelphia, but not actually take care of the people here in Philadelphia. So, I ain't gonna beat that question, in the ground, but real quickly, it was just like some wake up calls in relationship to seeing that the people here in our city that were denied us, all these different basic needs that we was needing, cutting off the utilities, foreclosing on the houses. These was all Democrats. And so we came to understand, follow the money. That was some of the things that we started learning as we started organizing, getting together. Follow the money, see where the money comes from, and then you can see how people are going to react. And no matter what they say out their mouth, we know how they're going to react when you look and see where they get their money from. And I'll just stop right there.
Yeah. You make an interesting point because like I remember Adam Smith, he wrote in The Wealth of Nations, and this ain't a direct quote, but a paraphrasing. He talked about civil government and what civil government was about. He said at the end of the day, civil government, the state, is based on money. Basically, he said it's about those that have property and those that don't have property. You know what I'm saying? And the state functions on particularly maintaining that class relationship. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I really woke up. This before I read anything like The Wretched of the Earth, or read Capital, even Capital by Karl Marx, or Lenin or Mao or anybody. It was the godfather of capitalism that I read, and I realized, like, wow, he's exposing this system. Like, this never been about the people. The state in which the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is professional representatives of that particular class dictatorship. You dig what I'm saying? Which is corporate America, the financial institutions, the international institutions, because this is happening right now with the situation in Palestine, like institutions like the UN, where they can veto one or two governments can veto, and all the other governments have no say in allowing a particular resolution to pass. And that's when I like the IMF, the World Bank. All of these are institutions to maintain this global imperialist system. So
absolutely,
that right there, man, Conrad, I commend y'all for y'all development. You dig what I'm saying? From going from once believing in it, but then correcting y'all, course correcting, and recognizing the people gotta be the solution to the problem. And I think that's why y'all one of the most highly respected organization. I'm honored to even be on here a panel that y'all allowed me to host for the Poor People's Army. You know what I mean? So I appreciate your comment. I want to pivot to Renee, because we was just talking about the Green Party. Can you I know you're a part of the Green Party, New Jersey. How long you been a part of the Green Party, New Jersey, real quick?
Fully active, it's been a little over a year.
Okay.
I immediately left the Democratic Party and switched to the Green Party when I moved to New Jersey about 2.5 years ago. It was like the perfect timing. I was leaving the state. I could just start fresh.
Right. We have a host of people from wide range of views that's on here, because this is a spectrum. We want a paradigm shift. It's always been a lesser of two evils, but on this side of the paradigm, we have a spectrum of views when it comes to Black liberation. So we wanted the full spectrum on here. So I want to ask you a particular question in regards to this, since we spoke about the Green Party. Can you talk a little bit about why you see the Green Party as being more in the interest of Black liberation than the Democratic Party?
I mean, it's not difficult, since the Democratic Party is not at all in the interest of Black liberation.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, and I want to caution people, right? Like, I live in New Jersey. It is a very active group in New Jersey. I am very active in the community. I do a lot of political education. I do a lot of events that surround opening people's eyes with regard to what policing actually is, talking about abolition. We do Black August events, and the Green Party group in New Jersey has been very supportive of everything that I have attempted to do with regard to that political education. So I say that, and I preface what I'm saying with that, because it's important for people to understand I live in one place. So when I speak about the Green Party and my experience within the Green Party, it is because I live in New Jersey, and the Green Party in New Jersey is very supportive and open to having these conversations, to allowing Black people to have these conversations, to allowing me to be in the lead and to be a chairperson for a committee. So I don't want to pretend like that's what it's like everywhere. There's some states where Green Party does not have an active body, right? So the reason that I went with the Green Party is because as I went through and looked at the pillars, as I went through and looked at the four things that they really kind of surround the organization around: peace, social and economic justice, the climate, like those things, those are important to me. And I wanted to be part of an organization that was established in the state and was going to give me the best opportunity, even as a person who doesn't fully believe in electoral politics, right? Because it's not always about doing the every 4-year thing and jumping in, and you hand out stuff when it's time for people to vote for the president, and then the rest of the time you forget that the people exist. So for me, it was more about taking notice of the fact that we had an organization where people were active on the ground in different communities, in different counties, where they had local elections, where people were trying to get on the school board, people were trying to get on the city council, because I feel like the local issue is where the real power is in order to motivate and try and gather your community in order to really try and access those resources and force some kind of dynamic change so that the people can get something. So that's why I chose the Green Party, is because it was already established in New Jersey. I was well aware that they were fully active, and they truly did open arms. There's been nothing that I've done as an activist, as an educator, as anything where I haven't called that chair and the council group and said, I need help with this, or can you send me a check, or can people come out? And they've told me no, it has not happened.
Right, right. I'm glad that you emphasized the fact that it's not like you feel this is the ultimate solution. Because sometimes people get caught up in democratic socialism, where they think the change can only come through electoral politics. This is also for y'all like a tactic, you know what I mean, to help forward the revolutionary movement, Black liberation movement. And me being a Marxist, Leninist, Maoist, it comes from my Leninist tradition. When Lenin's talked about that you had to crush the state. Those are institutions that reinforce social relations, production relations. And all those institutions, no matter if it's the police force, the military, the intelligence agencies, all down the list, you dig what I'm saying? All of those are institutions that maintain the system. I think revolutionaries in the past made mistakes like Kwame Nkrumah, you know what I mean? They never crushed the state and rebuild it with revolutionary institutions in its place. And that's how Kwame Nkrumah got overthrown. You know what I'm saying? So I would go on record for the first time, and this might surprise a lot of people. This is the first election that I told people if we come to a consensus at the bottom, that because of the dire consequences of either the Republicans or the Democrats getting in, this will be the first time in my life that I would be willing to vote for a third party, particularly Green Party in this case, because I've been working with a lot of y'all comrades that got affiliation with the Green Party. It wouldn't be, I would add the caveat, this is not going to bring about Black liberation in a concrete way. This is only a mitigation of what the left and the right with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party represent. They're both fascist party. I think the Green Party would be a mitigation to it and give us time to keep on developing our united front, but definitely not the ultimate solution. So I'm open for this conversation. This is why we even having these type of conversations today. You know what I'm saying? I want to pivot to Bomani. Bomani got a question about that or a comment. Go ahead. You're unmuted.
Oh, okay. I heard Sister Renee. I heard you mention Black August, right? Tell me how the Black August relate politically to the work that you're doing. I heard you mention Black August and have political education and things of that nature, right? So I was just curious. I am a member of the Black August Organizing Committee. That's why I asked these questions.
So Black Alliance for Peace had sent out a teach-in guide, and it was literally a layout of the information that they wanted you to walk through within your community. And it really had no political affiliation in that sense, but I needed to rent a space. I needed to be able to feed people. And so my Green Party chairs agreed to help support that effort. It had literally nothing to do with the Green Party, but they supported me in that effort.
Okay. I appreciate that.
I want to pivot to you, Bomani. In Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Color Blindness, she wrote, the genius of the current caste system and what most distinguishes it from its predecessors is that it appears voluntarily. People choose to commit crimes. That's why they are locked up or locked out, we are told. This feature makes the politics of responsibility particularly tempting, as it appears the system can be avoided with good behavior. But in here lies the trap. All people make mistakes. All of us are sinners. All of us are criminals. All of us violate the law at some point in our life. In fact, if the worst thing you have ever done is speed 10 miles over the speed limit on the freeway, you have put yourself and others at more a risk of harm than someone smoking marijuana in the privacy of his or her living room. Yet there are people in the United States serving life sentences for first-time drug offenses, something virtually unheard of anywhere else in the world. When I think about the many ways that the Democratic Party has criminalized the black liberation, I think about how Chicago Mayor Richard J. Daley criminalized the original Black Panther Party, the original Young Lords, the Young Patriots Organization, the Almighty Vice Lord Nation, the GDs, the Black P Stones, which led to the assassination of Fred Hampton, the pressures that led to Jose Chacha Jimenez, the founder of the Young Lords, being forced underground for a number of years, conservative Vice Lord spokesman Bobby Gore being sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit to disrupt the good work that they were doing in the community with people like Martin Luther King Jr. Can you talk about the incidences such as these that the Democratic Party has openly waged a class struggle, an anti-colonial struggle, a counterinsurgency, as Michelle Alexander correctly puts in her book, directly against the Black liberation movement and our advocacy for self-determination?
Okay. Well, the first thing to really realize about this situation that the Democratic Party that was founded in 1828, it was founded by two slave owners. It was founded by slave owners, right? So then also occurring during that time, New African was in slavery at that time. It wasn't the 13th Amendment wasn't abolished. It wasn't created and abolished in 1865, right? And also another thing to notice that Mayor Daley was a part of a very racist, white supremacist gang, so to speak, known the Hamburger Club, that had a lot of racist white German ideology behind it. And he was a gang member himself, right? And basically, he was modeling things in regard to the system off of his ideology as a mob figure. And also during that time in the 60s, COINTELPRO were doing anything in regard to trying to look for the Black Messiah, which you consider anybody who was a Black leader at that time who can awaken the minds of the people, right? And going back to the Democratic Party and Republican Party being in 1854, during those times, slavery going on. So New African people wasn't a part of any kind of party because they were engaged in slavery, right, at that time. And ever since our origin coming here, 1619, New African people had always resisted. We all became maroons, to have maroon villages. We always have our own city, town, nation states. We always see independent, have our own government, from that perspective. So, speaking about that, when you look at organizations like the Vice Lords, the Black Keystone Nation, Growth and Development Nation, you look at these various organizations, whether the Black Panther Party, Young Lord Party, and other individuals, right? We know during the 60s, the height of the 60s base, I'm gonna say 1962, the Revolutionary Action Movement came out. When Revolutionary Action Movement came out, they started kicking the aspect of the status quo in regard to being revolutionary as a Black person, revolutionary Black nationalism, right? So during that time period, you had the Black Power movement come out in 1966. Now, mind you already had different organizations like the Vice Law and the Stone Hour Resistance in the 50s, right? Well, the Disciple came in the 60s, early 60s. So during that particular political climate, a lot of these street organizations adopted a lot of the Black Power sentiments. They adopted a lot of the Black nationalistic sentiments. And a lot of these sentiments are already in them because you look at the history of Chicago. Chicago was founded by a Haitian, a Haitian, and we understand the Haitian Revolution was in 1804, right? So the remnant of that Haitian Revolution, all been remnant in regard to the Black Liberation Movement, and well, the new African Independent Movement in regard to people seeking land and independence and being a free from the oppressor, right? Now, if we go back and look at COINTELPRO mission was to neutralize the Black Messiah, to neutralize anybody who they deemed to be relating to communism, and they deemed to be deemed relating to the Black nationalism, any kind of radical movement, right, at that time in particular, right? So during 1967, the conservative Vice Lords, they put out a proposal to, at that time, the Black Devil Disciples and the Black Keystone Rangers at that time, It wasn't a nation at that time. And their proposal called LSD, Large Stone Disciples. And during that particular time, all the organizations were donning what you want to term different berets. They were down different berets. The Vice had the gold, the Disciple had the blue, and the Stones had the red, right? They were going in berets. They also had various programs and institutions that were needed for the people, you know what I'm saying, in regards to help people get jobs, controlling their own community, keeping the violence down, being productive, teaching history, culture, ideas. They even were fighting the system of Democrat and Republicans to make sure they ensure that New African had jobs, had equal opportunity, even had more jobs, especially in the condition, the state of poverty, right? So during that time, you know, a lot of those movements, a lot of people was attacked, murdered, killed because of their political beliefs. And it wasn't it wasn't really no gang bang going on at a particular time because everybody had the sense in regards to that we was a nation. And a nation, you look at it being a nation as a people, a collective group of people that had to share common beliefs, common culture, common ideas, right? And all these nations that you spoke about were doing things that were geared toward the positivity at that particular time. And also during that time, Martin Luther King came to Chicago and engaged in policy with them during the Poor People campaign. At that time, he stayed in the Vice-led community and they protected him from racial attacks from the different individuals. And because we know the Democratic Party and Republican Party wasn't going to protect them, so the people in the street protecting them from this quote-unquote street organization, they were being targeted by what you want to term COINTELPRO and being labeled, they are now being labeled as security threat groups, terror groups, and gangs and other organizations. They label very turn to criminalize them, where their intentions, these street owners' intention were all in the sense of righteousness, helping the people out, building up the Black community, having your own home, having your own business, having your own government, your own structure, having your own people to defend you against racial attacks. So you know it's an endless cycle that continues on to today in regards to the organization now have been victimized, and they a lot of organizations now, from the standpoint now from what it was then, have actually adopted principles that are contrary to what they did in the past, that are contrary in regards to what the significant work they did that were needed for to help the people in regards to the people needs and sustain the people, right? So the COINTELPRO, which was orchestrated by the Republican Party with the Democratic Party, was to neutralize any kind of resistance or anybody that they seen that was against what one term as Malcolm X said, Americanism, which is the American system, the system of Democrat and Republican, because they are both they're just two opposites of the same thing. Yeah, one direct and one indirect, but they pushing the same agenda. Then they also from the same system. Like mind you, again, when the both of them were created, New African was still in slavery. So how can either one of them be for the people in general, or how can either one even sense a need for the people? Even though certain forms of politics, certain forms of manipulation are geared toward certain things to make people to give power to vote. But if you think about it, if people stop engaging into the vote system, would any in the party even have any kind of political party if people start voting in general? You know, would they have kind of party? Now, I want to hear right up, man.
I appreciate that, comrade. You touched on a whole lot of stuff, and I would just say some of the stuff he's talking about. If you're not familiar with the street organization history about Martin Luther King working with the Lord, Stones, and Disciples, if you're not familiar with them having a lot of the same programs as the Black Panther Party, if you're not familiar with their politics about being pushing Black liberation and stuff, I would suggest you read Nation of Lords, autobiography of the Vice Lords. By David Dolly. He was a part of the what was it? The peace. And
I'll ask you, David Dolly was you brought into the Vice Lord. He brought into the Vice Lord.
Yeah, one of the first white Vice Lords, but he was working with the government, like a peace. I can't remember that institution, but he came to the community and said, look, I want to work with y'all. I see that y'all doing positive stuff in the community, and I want to try to get y'all money to help build up institutions. They built up those institutions. Then they even was working with the corporations and even the police departments to show that, look, we're not a gang, we're not a criminal enterprise. We're just simply controlling our community, and we feel like we're the best people to do that. When Mayor Daley called the war on gangs that targeted not only them, but the Black Panther Party, Young Lords, the Patriots or Young Patriots organization, they stripped all that money away from them. The corporations stopped giving them money, and then the police departments turned against them. You know what I'm saying? So when people talk about the street organizations, you don't know your history. That's part of Black history too. So I recommend, Nation of Lords right there, David Dolly. It's another book I would recommend. I forget the author's name. It's Boss and the Mayor Daley. Just recently came out like a year or two ago. I recommend that you read those books. Go ahead, Bomani, real quick, and then because I want to be able to get to all these questions. But and then I'm going to pivot to Tina Wright. Go ahead, though.
Okay. In regard to the reference, I'm going to say a good documentary to watch is the Lord thing. The documentary put out, you know what I'm saying, by the Black Peach Stone spokesman at that time. Mm-hmm. You know, he put the documentary, you know, and it talks about all the atrocities, all the attacks were going on, so forth and so on. I just wanted to mention that called the Lord thing.
Yeah, that's a good documentary too. I watched that. Shout out to Almighty Vice Lord Nation. We have a alliance. The Second Rainbow Coalition have alliance with them. We also work with the Growth and Development comrades. So I just want to plug that to show people like we're doing the same work that the original Black Panther Party did in this movement. When Bunchy Carter took the Slosson's street organization and turned it into a chapter of the Black Panther Party. When Jose Cha-Cha Jimenez took the Young Lords out of the streets and turned them into a political revolutionary organization, we're doing the same work. And I want people to understand why we work with street organization, because we actually know our history and we know the good stuff they were doing. And we know how the COINTELPRO and the government demonized us to separate the Black liberation movement. That's part of the class struggle, anti-colonial struggle against us. I want to move to Tina Wright real quick. And you wrote the book 360, Blueprint to Black Self-Determination in 2020. Can you talk about your book in relation to the Democratic Party and why they can never give us the type of Black self-determination that you speak about in your book?
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Kwame. And I want to shout out Shabako and thank him for inviting me to be on this panel. I put a picture in the chat that y'all can kind of see and download. It kind of represents my philosophy around 360 and why I don't feel like, and basically it comes down to where, you know, this is the last day of Black History Month, which started as Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson. And Carter G. Woodson said, history shows that it doesn't matter who is in power or what revolutionary forces take over the government. Those who have not learned to do for themselves and have to depend solely on others never obtain any more rights or privileges in the end than they had in the beginning. And so it's about power. And in my book, I talk about power as control. And so this electoral process, we control neither party. I will say that I am personally a nonpartisan voter. I do vote, but my ballot is nonpartisan. So I haven't, you know, given allegiance to any of them. I have voted Democrat. I have voted Green Party. I have voted Peace and Freedom. But I also know, and this is important, and I don't think we touched on this yet, that I kind of talk about in the book. You know, I'm also a student of Public Enemy, and Public Enemy said it takes a nation of millions to hold us back, right? So we have a lack of class consciousness directly related to white supremacy in a lot of ways. And so we need to understand that there are reasons why, you know, the class consciousness is not where it needs to be. Folks have chose white over right in many ways, and both capitalism and racism are constructs of white people and colonizers. And so until all that is reconciled with, we are not going to be able to get Black liberation in this country. So I don't see it on any kind of macro level anytime soon until you have a whole cultural shift within this country, quite honestly. So I look, and in the book, I speak to Maroons as a model, right? Taking care of ourselves, figuring out what we can control, building our communities, and doing it that way. I feel like, you know, which is spoken there. You'll see a quote from Black Socialists of America as well. So I'm more focused on kind of, you know, building Black cooperatives and doing stuff like that right now.
Right.
I will, you know, as a sociologist and kind of a material determinist, I do want folks to be real critical and think about, thank you, they're the Black sociologist one. So, you know, the prevailing systems are not inherently threatened by our disdain for them, but they are threatened by us building something better. And they also know how to absorb movements. I'm a student of movements, mass movements, and so on. I see how they've been co-opted. I see how most of our folks have to struggle and strive and don't have time and energy to do all that needs to be done to overthrow these systems, especially when you're talking about systems of power, control, resource, having no resources and so on. So we have to come together with what we have, our human capital, whatever we have, in order to take care of ourselves. I do want to like talk a little bit about kind of the politics of this year. I personally wouldn't shame anybody for however they vote, right? I know what I do. I know what other people do. And some of them is from lack of education. Some of them is the you know, less evil type thing. I feel like I'm careful not to do that because of things like this. There was a sister that was almost about to be indicted for having a miscarriage. That's something that wouldn't happen under every, you know, both parties, if you will. They have a law down in Arizona, right? A shoot and kill law right now that they are wanting to license people to be able to kill what they consider undocumented immigrants. And the only thing stopping that law right now is an Arizona Democrat governor who says she'll veto it. So I'm very careful not to, like, you know, tell people how to live and what to do. But I do believe that this system as it is inevitably going to fall. It won't save us. And we need to be ready and save ourselves. And I always have felt that way. So it's not about being necessarily anti either. It's about knowing that they're not for us. And the only people that can be really for us is us. Self-determination is about being able to determine your life for yourself. So representative politics won't do that, right? You have to be able to determine what you need for yourself, and so on. And so my, you know, working folks really, you know, you see it not just here in this country, but across Europe as well. They're getting a little bit more repressive in order to hold power. You see, you know, white supremacy is not kind of like the power it was because of China growing and other places and so on and so forth. So now it's becoming a little bit more repressive, more fascist and so on. And unfortunately, too many white people in this country are like, yeah, that's what I want. Instead of like wanting, you know, to get to work together for food, shelter, all their material needs and so on. So it's a whole cultural shift that will have to change before I feel like I'll see anything here. And so, you know, I've been working on my exit strategy. My folks are from Jamaica, so I've been able to like link with that, and I have that in case I have to do it. And it's not like it hasn't been touched by colonialism either, but it's still at least like not here. And so yeah, I just feel like we as a people have to understand power as control. Take real honest inventory. What do we control? Right. What don't we control? Even down to these platforms that we're on, these billionaire platforms and so on, that sometimes we can get our words out, but who's the one benefiting from it?
Right, right.
You know? All of those kind of things, I think we just have to be much more honest about. And when
Absolutely.
we are honest about it, we'll realize this country ain't ready for like that.
Mm-hmm.
And probably what will happen before we see kind of real solidarity and folks rise up is it implode itself. And we'll have to be able to make sure we're able to take care of ourselves and get out of it.
Yeah. And I would add on to what you're saying. You make a good point. Like, we have to become self-sufficient. Black liberation movement. We have to control the institutions in our community. That's one of the things that I learned from the Black Panther Party. The concept of dual and contending power, what Huey P. Newton called survival, pending revolution. Like, it was about taking back all the institutions in your community. If you don't control the institutions in your community, you lack power. You know what I'm saying? You lack control. You know what I mean? And the dual and contending aspect is that these institutions that's in our community are made to or was institutionalized to maintain the social relations that we have, to maintain colonial relations, to maintain class relations of oppression. So we have to build institution that stands in total opposition to that. Like, one institution I talk about all the time is Black liberation schools. We cannot think that by sending our kids to these schools, and we wonder why, like in Florida, they're telling people, I'm down here in Temple, Florida, if y'all didn't know, I moved down here because I saw what was going on, and I realized that this is ground zero. I want to be on the front line against this fascist stuff, neo-Nazi stuff that DeSantis is putting down. You telling us Black people that slavery was good for us. It gave us skills and stuff. And this is what they teaching our kids. They're banning all of our books and stuff like that. That's why the Black Panther Party, when they had their own Black liberation schools, that stood out to me. I started to realize these are colonial schools. So I call them by their colonial name because this is what they're reinforcing, these type of relations amongst us and class relations amongst us that even affect white people. You know what I'm saying? It's teaching white people not to even know what their real role in history. Like, most white people don't know about the Bacon's Rebellion and how that led to the institutionalization of white supremacy in this country, from the political aspect to the social aspect. They did a lot of them don't know that y'all united with us on the plantation and helped overthrow Jamestown, Virginia, because y'all thought y'all was going to be forever in slavery too. So by giving white people these little crumbs, it sold them out as a class, as a population. Yeah,
it has worked. I'm from Virginia, Newport News, Hampton area, so I know that, real well. It worked. It was like, and so right. Understanding like human people, how people function, and like ego and really understanding the psychology of people. They know and understand the psychology of people. Mm-hmm. Okay, those mm-hmm. the power elite know and understand social psychology. And until we really understand it to the same level, we're not going to be able to create the same level of solidarity that we will need to in order to sustain ourselves. It worked. Right. Bacon's Rebellion, right, and then changing to the Black laws and all of that type of thing, and mm-hmm. making poor white people think they got something when they have nothing. They mm-hmm. they buy it. Like they a lot are all in.
Yeah,
a lot are all in. So that's gonna have to change.
Yeah, and it's ironic.
Especially demographically, we're 13-14% of this country. So until that changes demographically, electorally, it won't change either. So we have to figure that out and take care of ourselves in the meanwhile.
The paradox of white supremacy is that at the end of the day, white supremacists, y'all are the biggest house slaves, and y'all just don't know it. Like, y'all get the crumbs, and these billionaires, they don't care. Y'all pawns. They send you out there, and y'all run out there with your white supremacist manifest destiny type of worldview, and you're the ones getting killed. It's not the rich white billionaires and stuff that's going out there. They play you so much that the Black billionaires, the brown billionaires, is sitting up right there like, look at them little house slaves out there. All the little white and Black and brown house slaves out there doing our bidding for our class. And they think they're a part of the American people. Yeah, you getting played. You need to educate yourself. You know what I'm saying? So I want to pivot to Galen. Let's pivot to the mass-based movements that arose in the U.S. the last 20 years, such as Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter grassroots. And I specifically use Black Lives Matter group grassroots to make a distinction between the movement, and the Black Lives Matter global network that co-opted that movement with the help of the Democratic Party. I know Melina Abdullah, she was supposed to be on tonight. I wanted her to talk a little bit about how they've been pushing back against Black Lives Matter Global that stole their money, that they co-opted their movement, what they're doing today to regain their name. A lot of us saw what was going on with Black Lives Matter, and it became disgusting. And so we was like, who is these people really working for? Like, y'all trying to make us back under the wing of the Democratic Party? Like, how does this work? You know what I'm saying? So they're trying to take their name back. She was supposed to be on here tonight, but she had another obligation. But I want to ask you, Galen, I would like you to explain how one of the major roles of the Democratic Party is to co-opt and hijack these mass-based movements and bring them under the wing of the Democratic Party in order to preserve the status quo.
Ooh, this is something they've been doing since the beginning of time. Basically, one of the things, in my studies, I'm starting to learn that it's always been a coalition, amongst the Democrats and the Republicans. When we look back through history, the Republican Party with Lincoln and them was the ones that freed the slaves, but those were some of the biggest white supremacist, policies, that was set forth, in the years to come by them. And so in here in Philadelphia, they made it, like I was saying earlier, they made us out to be like the poster child. They had like the Ford Foundation, everybody just giving us money, like just, just constantly just passing off money, flying us all around the country, flying us all around the world, trying to use us to meet with other indigenous movements, in other different areas, whether it was in Brazil or whether it was in Mexico or it was in Colombia or over in India or Africa. They was trying to get us to link up with different groups that were the traditional nonprofits, these NGOs, as they was calling them, and they was giving us like all this money, to talk about these things, and they pretty much thought that because we was pretty naive. I don't want to throw like we had the answers when we was going through it. In hindsight, we could sit back and look and see their calculated moves that they was playing chess, and us, we was like, getting money and people telling us we was doing great things, we was thinking that we was playing chess too, but we was pretty much pawns, on someone else's chessboard. What was the problem? And as soon as they had us to the point where they gave us this big opportunity to write these $1 million budgets, this grant, and write up this $1 million budget. And I don't know, we was naive, we told them exactly what we was trying to do, and they was like, what? Yo, you trying to build what?
You really believe in freedom? You really believe in democracy? Nah, we got silent still. You know what I mean?
They not only, didn't answer us about the millions, because they had already told us years before, y'all are funded for life, had us on all their magazines, all their books, all this stuff. They was gassing us up, and they had us right at the point where they was like, we've been giving them all these little pieces of carrot. Now we got them to the point we were going to give them the whole carrot, And we told them, we was going to share this money with other different groups that was working in grassroots area to highlight, help build around economic, social, and cultural rights, and named all the different groups we was working with. And they now, like I said, not only did they not give us the millions, they snatched up the hundreds of thousands that they was already giving us and said, we don't want to have anything else to do with y'all. And so we didn't crumble or fall. It just, you know what I mean? We didn't get that really big leap. You know how like if you fall, like you walking inside the house and you got like a little, you know, step, little crack in the step or something like that, and you like fall down one step or something, you know, that don't really hurt. You know what I mean? But if you at like the top of the steps, you know what I mean, and you fall down to the bottom, that tend to hurt. And so when we fell, we was one of the early on revolutionary groups. You know what I mean? We felt early on in the 90s where they was like, oh, hell no. You know, these people, you know, don't want to bend. And when we didn't want to bend, they started doing a whole bunch of stuff with the stick. But, you know, we had comrades that, you know what I mean, that stayed strong and supported each other, you know what I mean, through all this, to the point where we was able to build up by other real different comrades coming around and trying to really build this movement. And so I say all that to say that, like, when we was doing this at the time, we had like over like 50, 60 different groups that was part of the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. We had like 135 affiliates, you know, and when they snatched the money from us, because, you know, we were spearheading it, you know what I mean, out of Philadelphia. So money that we raised, we shared with the Chicago Coalition to Protect Public Housing. We shared it with Jesus People Against Pollution in Michigan. You know what I mean? We shared it with the brothers and sisters out in Arkansas. We shared it with the Nebraska farm workers, you know what I mean, that was getting paid and sanctioned if they growed it. You know what I mean? Either you got paid if you didn't grow anything, and you got sanctioned if you did, you know what I mean, if you did grow stuff. And so we just, you know, had all these different groups. And when they snatched our money, you know, they went around and raided our shop like a union, you know what I mean? And went back to all the different groups, gave them money for their website, you know what I mean? Had different things, you know, give them a grant here, give them a grant here. And right now, they're not receiving none of that money either right now.
Wow.
You know what I mean? They're not getting none of that money now. But at that point in time, they was being used as pawns and stuff like that on someone else's chessboard. And so we always been sitting back and trying to do self-study, political education, and not just look at where things came from and where things are at, but like where things are going. You know what I mean? When we think about AI, you know what I mean? And people are fighting for jobs that pay $15 an hour, you know what I mean, that aren't going to exist. You know, so $15 an hour, you know, they could have you fighting around that, organizing that for years, when we should be trying to figure out how to deepen ourselves, like Tina was saying, and relationship in our communities, and figure out how, when this thing, you know, because we all know that capital is going to burn itself out, you know what I mean? What are we going to be doing after that? And so that's the thing that we're looking up and trying to link and build this big umbrella, you know, that, you know, that's going to include liberation, you know what I mean, for the Black man and woman, you know what I mean? Ensuring that when we include everybody, and we set up a situation where everybody going to have, you know what I mean, that's going to be inclusive. And so it's going to be a lot of steps. And some of the steps is like, you have to get people that relate and understand, you know what I mean, some of your trials. Because, you know, I hear people all the time talking about trials and tribulations, but they don't understand what tribulations are. But all these trials that we keep going through, you know what I mean, and using these experiences to be able to like share it with the next person and their experiences, and trying to figure out how we're going to link up based on what we have in common, and not always just talk about the differences. And so, you know, in 1968, you know what I mean, you know, the 60s, you know what I mean, there was a lot of things going on in the 60s, but what they was fighting up against in the 60s is nothing to compare to what we're fighting up against right now. You know what I mean? Fascism, you know what I mean, has been here, you know what I mean? But the hand is going to get it tighter and tighter around people. And we're trying to get people to try to figure out, you know, let's not all go down on the Titanic. Let's try to figure out how we're going to build some life rafts and lifeboats and support for people who are like-minded like us. Yeah, I mean, just want to build a future so everybody can have a decent, dignified life, not where a small percent of the people get to go You know what I mean? What's that pier we was up on, Kwame, down in Tampa?
Yeah, St. Petersburg Pier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
them piers and all that stuff, seeing the good part of the earth and stuff like that, looking at the best part of the planet, you know what I
Right.
mean, and got the rest of us not leaving 10 to 12 mile radius, you know. And so that's the thing that we're about trying to change. And we know the Democrats nor the Republicans is not going to do that for us. And like, and particularly the Democrats is like, we're so burnt up about them
Yeah.
because, you know what I mean, you know, it's hard when you invite somebody to sit down at your table and they be like, oh, you want something else to drink? You go get them something to drink and they put something in your food, you know what I mean? And you invited them inside your house. Like, that's what they do all day long. They come around every 4 years or whenever the election cycle is for them, you know what I mean? Come in your house and they leave these pamphlets and all this bullshit, you know what I mean? Knowing that they poisoning you. And people fall for it every 2 to 4 years. You know what I mean? People fall for it. It's better than Trump. No, it's the fuck not. Excuse me. No, it's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, you know, it's like you can get with this or you can get with that. We don't want neither one of them motherfuckers.
Neither one. Like,
you know what I mean?
what's the lesser of two evils? Like, I don't want no evil. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
So, yeah. So, so I just say that, you know, to talk about, I don't know, I'm gonna get to talk again, Kwame, because I'm shut up.
Yeah. I want you to talk about the march. I'm gonna end with you on the march, then we open up question and answers.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm about to pivot to you, Renee, but you make a good point, comrade. Like, it's the mask is off. You know what I mean? We see the rise of fascism all over the world. We see xenophobia. They're invading us, these catchwords and stuff. We see that the situation down in the border right now, they've been talking about like Biden down in the border. But he has the same policy as Donald Trump. That even the news is like, it's very little difference between Donald Trump and that apartheid wall down there and that border situation down there. We see the situation with Gaza. Like, this is genocide. Like, just imagine if Russia was the other way around and Russia was funding the Israelis doing this. Like, the United States would be like, oh my gosh, this is human rights abuses. We need to take them to the international court. But then when they get to the international court and it's dealing with them, they want to, justify. They want to veto every ceasefire. One of the things that, and this going to pivot to you, Renee, is how they use this neo-colonialism. This is what the Democratic Party's fascism looks like. They have put a black face, a brown face, a woman, a LGBTQIA plus person up here, but it's still maintaining white power, U.S. imperialism. The woman that's the U.S. ambassador for the UN. She making us look crazy, but it's not. We got to recognize she ain't us. We got to get away from the identity politics of the neo-colonialism by putting a black face. We think somehow, they're fighting for us. No. We got to understand the nature of the state, and the state is a class dictatorship, just like slavery. Those were slave masters that came together to maintain that system. You know what I'm saying? And they passed laws in order to maintain their dominance over the people at the bottom, which was us, and also the white people that they gave crumbs to be in those positions. Because we remember back in the days, them strikes, they used to go in and shoot everybody in the factory. People don't remember that long history and stuff. This is why political education is necessary. I want to pivot to you, Renee, because I know you out there. You're in a unique situation. You out there, not too far from Newark. You dig what I'm saying? And I know you've been watching what's been going on with Newark, with Ras Baraka. So I want to say, can you name a few things that you have seen the Democratic Party do in the state of New Jersey itself by promoting Black misleadership, like upholding individuals like Mayor Ras Baraka in Newark, New Jersey?
I got 2 words that tells it all. Cory Booker. I mean, you can't get no. I mean, you really can't. Yeah, I mean, it's classic, right? And this is what they do all the time: is they promote this idea like, look at New Jersey. New Jersey's so great. They've got a Democrat mayor. The biggest city's got a black mayor. The governor's, a Democrat. They sell all these things and then they don't tell you what the realities are, right? They don't tell you that Black people make up 15% of the population in New Jersey, but they make up 61% of the incarcerated in New Jersey. They don't tell you that Black youths make up 71% of the incarcerated youth in New Jersey. They don't tell you that in Newark, with its Black mayor, who they celebrated because he saved the schools from the state, right? But 20% of high school students in Newark don't graduate from high school. 20%. That's a lot of children who don't make that one milestone. And not to say that education is the end all be all, right? But you're not even making that milestone, right? When they look at the graduating class from Newark, 15%, only 15% are considered college ready, right? You leave Ross Barack on a hot mic, he don't know it. And now all of a sudden everybody know he didn't change out all the pipes. Right. So there is a lot going on. He jumped up real quick to say he was running for governor. Where's your money coming from? He hasn't filed financial paperwork in over a year. Right.
So we're not talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about Ras Baraka.
Exactly. That's what you know what I'm saying?
Stuff. You did.
Right. You go, Cory Booker come into Union County and do his little promotional thing. And when you ask him, why is he standing behind Israel? He won't even acknowledge you. He won't answer your question, right? He's not going to talk about the hundreds, the millions of dollars he's taken from AIPAC. So all of these people are all part of the problem. And as you said, they're all blackface and simply representing a power structure that is already not is not at all in place to facilitate anything towards the needs of Black people. Right. So my favorite phrase has always been all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And we must continue to remember that phrase.
Right.
Because it holds true too many times, and people get very excited about that identity politics and, all these things. And the reality is, people are people. Right. If you're part of a system and you're engrossing the system and you're taking money from the wrong people and you're trying to just go along and make as much as you can, and you can say all you want about revolution, about being for your people, about what it was like to be Black and raised in America and all these things. But if in the end all you're doing is the same shit as the white people, I don't, how much is your melanin doing for anything? Right. Nothing.
Right. Yeah. We definitely got to get rid of this identity politics. I never was like into the my ethnicity, and because I don't know, I think the Black Panther Party just like got me over a lot of contradictions quick. You know what I'm saying? Because they called out everybody and they helped me with my political education and grow quicker. So I never went down like Black separatism route and then promoting like all Black people we need to unite and stuff like that. No, I started realizing it's a class aspect to it. It's a colonial aspect to it. It's and if we don't analyze it, we'll get played by people that look like us and wonder why they carry out the same policies that these imperialists that was representatives that was in there before them in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and stuff. You know what I mean? But we have to give ourselves the political education to understand we don't go off of what you look like. We go off of your policy and what role you play in the system to maintain our oppression. That's how we look at see what side of history you're on. You know what I'm saying? I want to pivot to you, Bomani. We hear a lot of Black liberation organizations link themselves to Palestine and speak about the anti-colonial struggle these days, especially since the settler colonial state of Israel has been carrying out a genocide on Gaza. And we all know that this is a Democratic president, accurately called genocide, Joe. Like, he deserves that. Keep it trending, y'all. Who is behind this current genocide. Can you talk about how the Democratic Party has been waging anti-colonial struggles against Black people over the years in the Caribbean in Africa, and right here in America. I think of many instances, like how the first black president, Barack Obama, who's a Democrat, overthrew Muammar Gaddafi in Libya in 2011, and now we have African slavery there, and the Democratic Party refuses to talk about that. You know what I mean? Can you give some instances of how they've waged anti-colonial struggles against us, where we was fighting for liberation, that we was they overthrew some democratically elected governments. They assassinated people in the Pacific, down there and over in Africa and stuff like that. I know you got a wide range historical view of analysis of history, so it's a pleasure having you on here to talk about some of these insights, Conrad.
Okay, hold up. Well, first I want to say that I'm a new Afro-Revolutionary nationalist. My viewpoint is that I want to build a new African nation, a new African government, right? So our new African government is not going to be Democratic and not going to be Republican, right? It's going to be geared toward the needs of new African people. If we call it scientific socialism, we call it communalism. We call it, if it built on the base of cooperative economics, whatever it be built on, right, that we want to build. Okay. Then the second thing I'm looking at is that my previous conversation, we were just mentioning the aspects of Republican and COINTELPRO. Now, in 1962, right, in Washington D.C., a lot of federal workers that were psychiatrists and psychologists got together, right, and they got together on the emphasis of how can they use mind control techniques to control the prison population in 1962, because they seen the people in the prison had a very radical mentality and they were producing people that were coming out doing different things. They were creating cadres and had different mindsets that were considered to be a threat to the system, right? Now, another thing I'll mention is also is that we look at Black Wall Street, right? Black Wall Street was an independent civilization of all Black people, new African people, right? They had their own politics, they had their own legal system, they had their own control their own institutions, from hospital, grocery store, bank, school, community center, so forth and so on, right? And it was neutralized by the Democratic and Republican system, and neutralized them because of what they were doing to have independence. And even until up to 1969, the Republic of Africa, doing Black Nation there in Detroit, Michigan, was attacked at New Bethel Church for strictly just organizing to celebrate the founding of the British government, March 31st, 1968. They was actually attacked by the racist white government for basically just organizing to commemorate and organize and strategize about how they're going to get independent, how we're going to obtain land, how we're going to create a program, how we're going to create an institution, and cadre in the community, right? And the Republic of Africa has always been an advocate for those who are fighting for independence. So we Republic of Africa advocates for people like Palestine, advocate for Cuba, advocate people, in the different countries in Congo and Africa that are fighting for independence. The Republic of Africa advocates for this because we advocate for independence. And we also advocate for the aspects of people who fight for independence to advocate for our independence as well, to recognize us as new African people, right? So it had been very interesting and very situation through our history that entailed the aspects of new African people, or African people, and other people, on the continent and other places in the Caribbean that have been neutralized, and also within the Republic of Africa, there have been very people that became citizens, called naturalized citizens, that had been from places like Cuba, Jamaica, Nicaragua, Africa, and all other places that have been naturalized as new African citizens, even if they don't live in America, or even though they don't live in the 5 territories in America, so to speak, which are the 5 states of South Carolina, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, right? So the politics is universal. We understand that we are new African. We also understand that we are Pan-African people, because we understand that a relationship with Africa and a relationship with New Africa is inherent for us to survive. It had been very attacks on people throughout our time, such as Marcus Garvey and his movement, You know, you had different attacks between W. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these attacks and supplements of political tricks have been utilized to neutralize us, to bring us down, right? Even the aspects of how they utilize the Nation of Islam, the Hebrew Israelite, the street organization, so forth and so on, to do certain things, to pay people off, and also like as we go back to Chicago and we go talking about the street organizations, we knew at that time that LSD was existing. But we also knew Chairman Fred trying to create the Rainbow Coalition, and they actually seen that a relationship with Jeff Fort and Fred Hampton Jr. would be a problem for them because the Blackstone Rangers, Black Keystone Nation, had a large army that they would train. They would train in military tactics. They would train in politics. They would train in education. And they know them two getting together would be a problem for the American social system in regard to where Mayor Daley was trying to push, because he wanted Mayor Daley basically looking at the aspect controlling everything from rich white families, controlling everything in Chicago, right? And he didn't want to see the rise of the Black Messiah going in the aspect. They even trumped their charges. They would trump their charges against Jeff Fort by giving him money, which he never received. He took the money, which is all $1 million, so they can try to lock him up.
Yeah.
You know, they're by the Democratic Party to do so, right?
Right.
You know, also they trumped their charge in regard to Bobby Seale with the Chicago 8, where they involved various white radical organizations at that time that they were pushing for liberation and freedom as well. So, and they actually gagged him and beat him up in the courtroom and everything. And also, you look at that aspect of like when Conrad Jordan was in California in the 60s, you know, that they put him in the Jessamine Center because of their political beliefs. And that system even pushed on all the way up to the 2000s, in which there was a movement called the Agreement to End Hostilities that were orchestrated by the New Arab Revolutionary Nationalists to curb like all the different race aspects between New African, the Southern Mexican, Northern Mexican, you know what I'm saying, and the Europeans. You know, they curbed it to stop the violence because they realized the whole violence that the system utilized with them to turn to each other so they can continue to oppress them, right? And all these New African brothers were put in the shoe and labeled gang members 30 and 40, 50 years because of their beliefs in New Arab Revolutionary Nationalism, because they believe in independence. And, you know, and it wasn't until they went to courts during those time periods and they had hunger strikes in 2014, 2015, 2012, so forth. They asked for a shoe.
Yeah.
And once they started to this shoe, they found out a lot of these people had been in the shoe 30, 40 years. They got a lot of psychological issues, right?
Yeah.
You could have placed in a small environment. You know, so they didn't have nobody around us. Sometimes you just on the rain by yourself. You wasn't getting no sunlight, which was dangerous for the skin. Even though you're supposed to get out, no sunlight and no attention. So these conditions damage the people in regards to our particular mind state.
Right.
If that body, you know, they wore you down, and also they carry out because of resistance in the prison system. Like some people had ever since the 60s, they were locked up ever since then. You know what I'm saying? They were recently released last year after almost 60 years, and he perished after that. Dr. Matuka Shakir. You know, the list goes on and on. The people can identify new Africans, you know what I'm saying? The list goes on to our plight in particular to who we are, right? You know, so there's a lot to say about it. You know, I'm just I'm gonna leave you right there, man.
You said a mouthful. I wasn't even expecting you to go there with the shoe and stuff like that. A lot of people know that I did 18 years in prison, over 10 of it, you know, on solitary confinement, sensory deprivation, torture. It's the Human Rights Watch wrote a book called Cold Storage. If y'all can pull that up for people, read this manuscript that the Human Rights, a respected international organization, put out about the shoe in Indiana. It's several shoes in Indiana. You have the one at Wabash Valley Correctional Facility, and you have one at Westfield called MCC. In this report, they talked about how this is not rehabilitative. It's actually damaging people worser, and is people coming out worser in prison. You know, it's against international laws. Understand this right here in the United States, people. You dig what I'm saying? This is against the UN standard minimum treatment of prisoners. They're practicing torture right here in the United States according to international law. Like the United States can be brought towards the International Justice Court of Justice as well for this alone. If we want to go by law and we want to go about international laws, you dig what I'm saying? That's when I started to realize, like, during that strike that you was talking about, I was in the shoe at that time when that happened, Conrad, and standing in solidarity with them. You know what I mean? And it got leaked where somebody found a report that said that the California Department of Correction, they saw the use of the shoe as a behavior modification technique. Now, if you don't conform to your oppression, then the other thing about the shoe was used to make you want to commit suicide. Like, this is actually a document that was found in somebody's legal document that came from the California Department of Correction. If you don't conform to this, then we're gonna push you to where you want to commit suicide so we can keep our hands clean because you killed yourself. And when I was on the shoe, several people killed themselves when I was on the shoe. I did, like I said, when I got off the shoe, I knew I was suffering from a lot of post-traumatic stress. I knew I was stressing. Like, to be around people felt abnormal. I used to talk and my voice, I hear my voice and I felt like the objective observer, you know, looking at myself, but I didn't have a connection with my own being. And I struggled that for like a good 6 months to a year. I thought I was trapped in my body. I was like, what is happening to me? And then I read The Law is a White Dog. I forget the author's name, but she wrote about it. She's a professor at Vanderbilt. And she talked about the depersonalization that they recognize these type of institutions carry out. So what I was dealing with was a depersonalization. I stopped associating with who I was. You know what I'm saying? And I started to feel incomplete. And so it took me a while to be around people and feel normal. I was just always like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to get back in a cell. You know what I'm saying? Get away from everybody. Like, I dealt with a lot of social anxiety that depersonalization happened. But what was different about me than a lot of the prisoners in there, I was actually trying to understand what the strategy they were using against me and how to overcome this and understand this level of torture, because this was actually something that they learned over, I want to say, the Korean War, how to break people without causing physical, leaving physical evidence. You know what I mean? This is how like a sadistic these imperialists, these colonizers is. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate you, brother, for talking about that real quick, because we running out of time, and then I want to pivot to Tina Wright, and then we'll open up questions. Go ahead real quick, Bomani.
Okay. The thing I wanted to say is that depersonalization, derealization are considered symptoms of schizophrenia as well, right? Depersonalization, derealization. Okay, and I also want to point out that while brothers was in the shoe, they neutralized the process of debriefing. Debriefing is a tactic.
Yep.
Not doing people being POW in prison or war, right? They use the attack as a way that they'll let you out the shoe if you tell your political affiliation, your leadership, things of that nature, right? Then they'll let you out. You may get PCR or whatever, get out of prison. That to make people denounce their beliefs. And a lot of these brothers who's in the hunger strike, they never fought, never denounced their beliefs. They continue to fight and they continue to fight, right? I'm gonna leave right there.
Shout out to Abdul Agubala Shakur. That's Bomani Conrad. That's my Conrad too. He been on the shoe for how long, Conrad?
The Conrad's in the shoe for almost 34 years. He actually been locked up 44 years.
Yeah, and I only did like 10, 11 years on the shoe, and that was psychologically traumatic. I watched one of my friends go crazy. You know what I'm saying on there, and his mind snapping. He told me, he's like, Conrad, I know my mind is snapping, but I can't control it. You know what I'm saying? He did everything he could. I'm not going to talk about the circumstance. If you read my autobiography, I talk about it. But that was the first time I cried over somebody in prison. Went to bed and cried when I realized that, man, a good dude just got broken down. You know what I'm saying? I want to pivot to Tina Wright. This will be the last question. We'll end it with Galen, and then we'll open up questions real quick. So we might go over a little bit. Just be patient with us. I'm pretty sure y'all learning a whole lot. I'm glad that we got these panelists on here. So it's been some little political education tonight. In the article titled Professor Tina Bell Wright, the steps one must take for true Black determination, that was published June 20th, 2023. There's a part in that article where Davy D writes, Professor Wright cautioned against spending excessive time forming tribes with individuals who do not share our vision. Instead, she encouraged us to invest in healing and taking responsibility for our mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. Drawing inspiration from the effective approaches of former Black Panther Bunchy Carter, Dr. Martin Luther King. She emphasized the need for organizations fighting for Black liberation to position themselves as allies and servants of the community rather than adversaries. Why shouldn't Black people, the Black liberation movement, position themselves as allies with the Democratic Party, as an ally and servant of the people?
Well, because the Democratic Party isn't. so that is why we should not see. I mean, being strategic is one thing, but knowing and understanding social structure, power, why people keep power, why it doesn't matter whose face or what, color the face is in the power structure, but that their whole goal is to keep power, to hold resources, so on and so forth. When we think of it structurally, then we know that power structure, status quo is not for us. It's kept, there's plenty of cities that have had Black mayors, Black whatever. We know that hasn't saved us, right? And so it's structural. And in order to kind of really, I don't like to be the pessimistic one, but I guess I'll continue to be the pessimistic one, that this country is really just not ready. I've seen in the last, 10 years or so, that folks would rather pretty much burn it down than accept reality, right? And so, like, for example, the U.S., what can it do if it wants to stay the most powerful and so on? What can it do but the Democratic Party included tell a lie that this country is great and equality and all of these kind of things, that hegemonic kind of story that it loves to tell? How can it speak out against Israel when this country's history is the exact same thing? Is the exact same piece. People were here, they were killed, it was a genocide, but now, the flag and waving the flag and so on. So folks are just not ready to live in reality. Folks not ready to believe the truth. But I did want to speak a little bit to what you and Brother Bomani was talking about. My biggest concern now is, because they know social psychology and behavior and social psychology so much, things like you talked about are the tactics and strategies they use, and they work. I see them over and over again. I see organizers that, because they're human and they're bombarded with certain. Do you think that this isn't on purpose? Do you think that all of this isn't controlled? And people are starting to become in despair, depression, knowing they're unable to make things change. All of this is extremely purposeful. Right. So I wrote an article about Everywhere is War to protect your mind, because as soon as they get your mind, it's over. And your brain will play tricks on you. It's a chemical imbalance thing, right? When you see too much of in the article, I tell a story about sitting beside this brother who had done some on an airplane that did some Iraq tours, and so what he saw blown up children. He saw, all this kind of thing. It absolutely ruined his mind. And so, you know, we have to know and understand and just be extremely careful about how we let them control us. So we have to keep as much control of ourselves as we can, and just know that it's very purposeful. It's all purposeful.
Yeah.
Power is not going. I'll just say this: there's no, if they give anything, it's because they know they can still control things, right? So you have to know that even when you're demanding something and they say, "Okay, you can have this," it's only to keep you in some kind of control. So our best bet is to figure out how we can take care of ourselves, our communities, and become self-determined, where we can kind of check out of this system until it basically implodes itself.
Right. Man, Shamako, shout out to Shamako for inviting Tina Wright on here. This is my first time getting to meet you. You offer such rich insight on a lot of this conversation. I appreciate you coming on here. Hey, give her my phone number because we need to all be connected and stuff. Everybody about Black liberation. Like, we need to build this united front, and we can't do this isolated. You know what I mean? We have to build it and build this collective effort and see ourselves as fighting on this same battlefield. Galen, I want to end with you. I want you to talk a little bit about the march that we have coming up this summer, and then we'll open it up real quick, maybe 5-10 minutes for questions and answers and stuff. I know we went over the time a little bit, but I'm pretty sure everybody don't mind to stay on just a little bit longer. Hopefully everybody got about 10-15 minutes that you can spare the extended. But Galen, can you talk about that a little bit, this upcoming March we have?
Yeah, I'll speak real quick. We have been on March ever since 2000, the year 2000. Every 4 years, we've been having a march at the opening day of the Republican and the Democratic National Convention. And it's all due to, like, not just acting like we're going to go down to the convention doors and be like, yo, y'all been causing genocide. Y'all been violating our human rights. Now stop. And they're just going to stop. We use this as one of our tactics in relationship to, like, bringing people up under this umbrella where, when I think about what Renee has to offer, to different members that I work with, same with Tina, the stuff that, it's about adding different things to our recipe, to try to make it taste good. And so we see, like, it's a real big problem that's happening in this country. And the way we're going to deal with it is, like, to try to come up with a big solution. And so it's going to get as many people involved based on their experience. So on July the 15th, we're going to be marching to the Pfizer Center in Milwaukee, 4 p.m. And then we're going to be coming back August the 3rd to Milwaukee, where we'll be marching for 90 miles, arriving in Chicago, from Milwaukee to Chicago, and arriving on the 17th. And on the 17th, we'll be having a 48-hour vigil where we're going to have a concert.
No, that's the 18th, August 18th.
Yeah. That's the concert on the 18th. But we arrive on the 17th.
Okay.
We arrive on the 17th. The concert's on the 18th. And the march is on August the 19th, opening day of the Democratic National Convention. You can check and find all that, on the website, a lot more details and stuff like that. And, we're looking for people, that want to endorse, the march. And like I said, it's about grabbing different people from all around the country to be able to come explain some of the local work and share some of their ideas and try to figure out how we're going to cross-fertilize, and build on what we all have in common. And so anybody got any questions or whatever, you could just, hit me up.
Absolutely. What's the website that they can go to?
Yeah, it's just the Poor People's Army march.com.
Okay. And these are all the organizations that's endorsed us. Just to name a few: Alliance for Justice, the Second Rainbow Coalition, Veterans for Peace, La Mesa Nacional de Brown Beret, the Green Party of New Jersey, the Black Liberation Army Party on here, Nassau, It's a whole lot of organization. If you want to be a part of this, if you want to endorse it, reach out to the Poor People's Army. They have a sign up sheet where you can put your organization, your logo. We trying to get as many as possible. If you're down, across the country and you want to attend the march, we'll be having buses, bus a lot of people out there. We might be using trains and other ways to get out here. Definitely come out. This is our time. This is what Bobby Seale calls about seize the time. This is the moment in history, y'all, where it's a crisis. It's a crisis at the very top where the Civil War has already started amongst them. You know what I'm saying? At the top. Trump talk about even locking up Democrats and all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like the Civil War has already started. If you not know what's going on, we at the bottom, we need to start preparing. We at the bottom, we have to start to recognize we're our own salvation. If this starts to deteriorate and this society breaks down and martial law, all that kind of stuff, who's gonna save us? It definitely ain't the Democratic Party, y'all. You know what I'm saying? So we got to save ourselves. And this is the alternative that we're offering y'all right now, is that we have to see ourselves collectively. And this is what we want to convey during this march. If anybody has any question or comment and stuff, if you can raise your hand, let's take a few before we close out. Any question or answer, comment, whatever, definitely feel free right now. I hope everyone got a lot out of here. I appreciate you coming on, Renee Johnson. I appreciate you coming on here, Galen Tyler, Bomani Yahuru, Jihad Shakur, Tina Bell Wright. I think we all bring a different level of analysis to this. We all come from a spectrum. And we're not a monolithic community. People, we need to understand that, but that don't mean that we can't find a common point of unity and work together when we fight for Black liberation. And I always say, at the end of the day, Black liberation must ultimately mean human liberation. We got to see ourselves in an international context. We have to see ourselves as connecting with all oppressed people at the bottom. That's what Bacon's rebellion brought about, the division. We have to be the antithesis of that. And that's what the U.S. government feared. That's why they came against Fred Hampton and the First Rainbow Coalition. That's why they came against all the various different mass-based movement, all the way back to even Marcus Garvey. You know what I'm saying? That's why they co-opted our movements like Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter at different times. But we have an opportunity, a unique time in history, to seize the time, in the words of Bobby Seale. So with that said, I appreciate everybody coming on today. I hope everybody learned something. And that's all power to the people. We will be down there in Milwaukee and Chicago, boots on the ground. You dig what I'm saying? So if you're trying to come out there, boots on the ground with us, you did, and try to get down with us, and we'll learn your chants, we'll learn your slogans and stuff, and we'll interpollinate with us in our movement. We'll grow this united front from here on out. So with that said, I appreciate everybody. Everybody have a good night. All power to the people.